Always on your side. This is First Coast News at 6.
Right now at 6, two big on your side investigations. First, new police documents just released in the case of a JSO corrections officer accused of raping a woman. Plus, Chicago Pizza, the site of that deadly mass shooting at the Jacksonville Landing, reopening tomorrow. What documents from the city reveal about this restaurant? But first, we begin with some breaking news. The search for a construction worker who fell in the water near the Fuller Warren Bridge is over tonight. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Anthony Austin.
And I'm Jeannie Blaylock. We're told that his body has been recovered. About 11 o'clock this morning, multiple crews responded to the south side of the bridge where the worker apparently fell into the water. The Coast Guard tells us the worker was working on a dredging project. The company in charge of that project is called Archer Western. We've done some digging into the company and we've learned Archer Western was cited back in February in the case of 2 deaths.
And we have live team coverage tonight. On your side's Nick Perot starts us off with the latest on the worker. Nick.
Yes, Anthony, we can tell you that JSO is investigating this as a tragic accident, but the big question still remains this evening, and that is how this man ended up from near this bridge at his work site here in the St. Johns River. Around 11, a Navy helicopter soars above the Fuller Warren Bridge. JFRD on the ground. Nearly a half a dozen crews looking for someone who fell into the St. Johns River. Over a dozen construction workers standing by. The Coast Guard confirming a man fell into the St. Johns River. First Coast News has learned most of the contractors you see here in Vest work for Atlanta-based Archer Western. As rescue crews search by water and air support, the wife of a worker tells First Coast News an employee had been working near the bridge when he fell in. According to that woman, workers threw him a life preserver, but say the man panicked, unzipped his life vest, and then disappeared. JFRD eventually scaled back the ground search, staying in the water. Employees did not want to comment as they left the work site. It's still unclear if he was working on the bridge or on equipment near the bridge. OSHA is now investigating. And back out here live again, the contractors hired for this project are again out of Atlanta, and our Bethany Anderson continues our team coverage and has more on this project and those contractors. Bethany, good evening.
Nick, as OSHA investigators continue to look into what happened out here this afternoon, we have learned more about the construction company responsible for that employee. The company was cited back in February for 2 deaths, and at the time, federal officials said the tragedy was completely preventable.
This picture shows a concrete barrier bridge collapse that killed 2 construction workers inside a trench along Interstate 95 in Miami. It happened in February. At the time, OSHA officials said the employer, Archer Western Company, could have prevented the tragedy. The company was fined for 2 serious violations. The first one, allowing the men to do trench work in an area that had not been inspected for hazards, and the second, for not training the men on how to avoid hazards while doing trench work. The company was also cited for allowing employees to work in a trench near a concrete barrier that was not braced.
We have reached out to the company multiple times today for a statement, and so far, we have not heard back. Reporting live from the Fuller Warren Bridge, Bethany Anderson, First Coast News, on your side.
And we have continuing coverage now on this story on firstcoastnews.com. Also, be sure to stay tuned for updates tonight on First Coast News at 11.
More breaking news we're following at 6. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta has decided to hear former Congresswoman Corrine Brown's appeal next year. That hearing is set for January 28th in Atlanta. As you know, Brown is serving a 5-year prison sentence for tax fraud and corruption.
And this breaking news in now as well. Florida has launched a statewide criminal investigation now into sexual abuse by Catholic priests. Attorney General Pam Bondi says at least 15 victims of abuse have reported allegations, and they're asking other potential victims to come forward as well. The Diocese of St. Augustine says, quote, "This has been a very painful period for all Catholics." Bishop Estevez hopes it will, quote, "bring about greater trust in the church."
Now to the first of several big on-your-side investigations we're working on tonight. Today, First Coast News obtained the arrest warrant for Nathan McLeod. He's the JSO corrections officer arrested on rape allegations earlier this week.
Now, that warrant details the disturbing account given by two victims who accused the now former officer of sexual assault, an incident that reportedly happened 1 month before his arrest. On your side's Shelby Danielson has more on the investigation tonight.
A corrections officer who once worked here for JSO will now have his own arraignment in just a couple of weeks. And this new arrest warrant details the night that 25-year-old Nathan McLeod allegedly assaulted two different women.
That's why I said this isn't a good day. We do everything we can to support the victims.
In a newly released arrest warrant, a detective describes the party the reported victim was hosting with her co-workers on the night of September 1st. The victim says, quote, she began drinking and became intoxicated quickly. A friend helped take her to bed. She says she then awakes to Nathan McLeod sexually assaulting her, and she notices her pants are off. According to the report, she tells the defendant to stop and moves across the bed. She says he then, quote, grabbed her legs and pulled her toward the edge of the bed. She told the defendant to stop and began to kick him. That's when she states he pulls her closer and rapes her. The report goes on to say he grabs her by the hair and sexually assaults her again. Another victim in the report says he came to her room next. She says she awoke to McLeod sexually assaulting her. She says she had to forcefully make him stop and leave her bedroom. While McLeod is not a member of the Fraternal Order of Police, the union sent us this statement. While we are extremely disappointed to hear of the allegations against the corrections officer, those charges are criminal that resulted from an off-duty incident for actions that were not related to the good faith performance of his duty. His next court date is expected on October 24th, and according to this report, McLeod told police that night that he was drunk and didn't remember what happened. At JSO, Shelby Danielson, First Coast News, on your side.
And now to our second On Your Side investigation tonight. The site of a deadly mass shooting at the Jacksonville Landing is set to open its doors for the first time since the gunman killed two people and then himself at a video game tournament back in August. On Your Side's Eric Alvarez is live at Chicago Pizza, which is going to open to customers again for the first time since that tragedy. Eric?
Yeah, through these windows here at Chicago Pizza, you can actually see employees cleaning things up. They're expecting to open their doors tomorrow at 11 a.m. after being shut down for over a month. Back in August, First Coast News reported Jacksonville Fire and Rescue placed this cease and desist order on the door of Chicago Pizza after a gunman went on a shooting rampage during a Madden 2019 video game tournament at the Good Luck Have Fun game bar inside the restaurant. The shooting left 11 people in the hospital. The gunman killed 2 people, then himself. JFRD said the restaurant was never authorized to have a game lounge on the property. Therefore, the gaming tournament during which the shooting happened should never have been held at the Landing. Now, First Coast News has asked the city what changes Chicago Pizza or the game bar have made to codes or permits to allow them to reopen. We requested those documents at 10 a.m. yesterday. Right now, about 32 hours later, we have yet to receive them. Live at the Landing, Eric Alvarez, First Coast News, on your side.
And continuing our On Your Side investigations, twice in the past 9 years, Nassau County residents have been flooded by nearby Thomas Creek. Today, they say every time it rains for more than a day, they just get nervous about it. And they're asking the county and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to address the issues with Thomas Creek. On Your Side's Ken Amaro met with the people there to hear their concerns.
I'm at Thomas Creek, where a battle was fought in 1777, but today there's a new fight. Property owners are trying to keep their homes from being flooded. These are pictures after an afternoon thunderstorm. 4-acre circle partially flooded.
And I've been stressed out during this whole hurricane season.
Last September, after Hurricane Irma, Thomas Creek rose up and flooded the homes on 4-acre circle.
The storm happened September 11th of 2017, and not one single thing has been done to, as they say, de-snag the creek.
Paul and Christina Westmoreland were finally able to move back into their home this May.
And I'm tired of rebuilding. I just want to grow old in my home, and it's upsetting. I don't know if it's the politics or what.
The first flooding was 2008 during Tropical Storm Faye.
They had 9 years to start working on this.
What's being done? Not enough, they say.
We're not getting any kind of help from anyone.
In April, the U.S. Corps of Engineers told Nassau County a flood reduction project exceeds the cap of $10 million. It suggested a planning assistance to states study instead. County Commissioner Justin Taylor told me they're now working on that study. We see the need. It is now trying how to fix it. We cannot have another Band-Aid solution, he says.
Something has to be done. I can't live like this no more.
Taylor says the county has $875,000 to begin cleaning Thomas Creek. It should start anytime soon.
Bottom line is they need to clear Thomas Creek.
Canamero, First Coast News, on your side.
And if you have a story that you would like our On Your Side team to investigate, just send an email to onyourside@firstcoastnews.com.
Boy, I feel for those folks, but there's so many areas, creeks around the First Coast that are beautiful, and they may seem by the distance the pelican flies aren't close to the ocean, but it all depends on what you're connected to. So here is the ocean. Here is Nassau River. That's what separates Nassau County from Duval County. So what about Thomas Creek? Well, Thomas Creek technically really is along I-95. Now think about how far that is from the ocean, and then winds westward all the way out past Ratliff. And so Thomas Creek, like so many creeks, certainly is dependent on whether or not it's clear, whether or not heavy rain is falling. But the higher the ocean is, the less Thomas Creek can drop as well. We've seen that with Black Creek and St. Johns River and everything else in between. This system in the Caribbean will not impact the creeks through the weekend, but this system in the Caribbean will potentially impact our creeks next week. We'll take a closer look in just a few moments.
All right, thank you, Tim. Well, if you work out, you probably know what this exercise is that we're about to show you. It's called a burpee.
Boy.
One local gym's challenge to you tonight that can help more women on our First Coast have access to mammograms.
And what is that? It's a first in Jacksonville. That's coming up.